we have a special podcast episode to celebrate the opener of MotoGP. It's back. We've already watched the first practice session. I think we have some things we really want to talk about to get everyone stoked about the first race of the year on Sunday.
I think this is a good example of what MotoGP nerds Dave and I are, because it is Friday morning, and we were like, we should talk about this.
Yeah, I wanted to stay up till 1 a.m. to watch the second practice session, but I knew I had to get up early to record this so we can get this to you. So we've only seen the first practice. We're not looking at results because that'll spoil it. We're going to talk more about that, I think, in a second. But what do you got for us, Brian? What are you seeing out there with our first practice session? Who's standing out?
Let's talk first. So we're at Buriram, which is one of 3 tracks on the calendar where they use the extra hard rear carcass because of the heat and the abuse that the tire goes through. That always kind of makes those rounds a wild card because they set the bike up for the regular tire, not for this hard carcass as much. So you see a lot of guys, a lot of manufacturers struggle a little bit with it. Like KTM especially struggles with it. Honda struggles with it. They just don't do as good at generating grip out of the rear. But Aprilia excels at it. Ducati is good kind of at everything. So you're kind of seeing, I don't think that's the only reason that they're at the top, but it's not hurting them by any means. But the Aprilia looks phenomenal. The
Aprilia looks so good.
Yeah.
Again, just the first practice, which is the Friday morning practice, and Iagora is ahead of both factory Ducatis. Iagora, like, what did Aprilia come up with over the winter?
I mean, when you look at that, if you go find some photos of them in free practice today, the thing looks nothing like a motorcycle. I mean, even it's like another step past where it has been. There's little flutes and channels and wings and panels. There's stuff all over the place on that thing. It's looking more like a land speed motorcycle than it is.
Well, it has a real Akira thing going on, because even the way there's plastic covering the front forks and front discs, it looks like something out of 80s Japanimation. Like, it looks really cool.
Yeah, it very much, again, it looks nothing like, if you go sit that next to a production motorcycle, it doesn't look like it's the same thing. So it's cool to see what they're doing. There is some really cool stuff going on. So we actually saw another MotoGP channel posted a video yesterday, I think it was. So if you don't follow these guys, you should check them out. It's called The Race MotoGP. They're probably more known for their Formula One channel, and they've got a fairly big Formula One following, and they do
like in the millions, right?
Yeah, they do great analysis. They've got some people on staff that make some excellent graphics to help explain aero and performance and things, and they've got like boots on the ground guys as well. Anyway, they did a video. We might even throw a link of this on the description.
Oh, I'll definitely throw a link into this because you need to watch this. It's crazy cool.
Really well done. But there is an F-Duct in Aprilia's design now. So I'll explain what it is.
It's like adaptable Aero.
Yeah.
They found a way around the adaptable Aero rule, and it is brilliant. It's inspired.
Super clever. Yeah. So in MotoGP and in MotoGP, you cannot have moving wings. You can't have like motors that change angles and things like that. It's all fixed components. But there is kind of a loophole where there's nothing that says that things that the rider does with their body can't change things, because obviously the rider's body is changing things all the time, more so than in cars, right? So what they have, and we can find little photos and stuff, but there's like this on the front of that bike, there's the main intake duct, and that's to feed the air box for the engine. But then right below it, kind of on the two ends, on the underside, there's these 2 sort of oval-shaped openings that you really don't even see unless you're looking from underneath of the bike.
They're crazy subtle, yeah.
They're small, but what they're doing is they're channeling air into the bodywork, and then there's presumably there's some tubes or something that's kind of guiding that air, and it kind of jogs through the side panel, and then there's an exit that would be kind of on the face of the bodywork right below where the frame and the gas tank meet. Now, where that's positioned is when the rider is riding and they're upright, then those ports are open, so the air can flow straight from the duct underneath the the front of the bodywork out to that port that's built into that thing. But then when they're tucked on the full straight and their butt is back and their head and chest are down, their forearms basically seal that little opening, and then it forces the air to flow in a different position on the lower part of the bodywork. And it's designed to help stall out some of the drag that would normally be caused by some of these Aero designs that they have. So when they're tucked, the way the air flows is it's eliminating some of the drag that the other appendages are causing. So
effectively allowing them to go faster on the straightaway, right?
Yep. So they get the benefit of those crazy side pods that help with kind of downforce, pulling the bike down to the ground in a corner. But then on the straightaway, those wings are effectively like partially stalled out, so they don't cause as much drag anymore. Fascinatingly clever idea. And we talked about this on a podcast where we will see a version of the bikes early on, and then there will be something that comes out at the very end because they don't want everybody else to see it yet. They want to present it so late in the game that nobody has a chance to copy it. And that's what this is. They even the Buriram test last week, they weren't running with these the whole time. It wasn't until like the last day of the test when they showed up with these things.
And they were covered in tape, so you didn't even really notice them.
Yeah, just really, really clever stuff. And this is the fun part of the engineering side of MotoGP and Formula One especially. This is the fun part, is this sort of like pseudo espionage, like what can we hide, what can we get away with part of the game.
It's all pretty fun. Like, and Aprilia, oh my gosh, Aprilia, even Martin's looking really good.
Yeah.
And he has to be kicking himself for signing with Yamaha, because Yamaha is having, from what we've seen, is having the opposite experience as Aprilia out there.
Nothing about the Yamaha looks good right now.
Freaking Fabio Quartararo came in, looked like he was on the verge of tears. And it looked like his team member came up and said, "Here, let me show you your bank account numbers."
Yeah.
Right? So
they're in a bad spot. If you are a Rins or a Miller or just some extent a Toprak, because Toprak knows he's got a runway, and he knows that no one's gonna be like, Toprak's no good. It's like, no, that bike is no good.
Right.
But the other guys are in a different spot because they're like, Miller, to some extent, Miller doesn't want to be on the best bike on the grid right now, because the best bike on the grid deserves the best rider on the grid, and he knows he can't keep that seat at the moment. So him being in more of a development phase probably keeps him in Yamaha longer.
Right.
So, but yeah, the bike is nowhere near. There were a couple video clips, and you can go find them on MotoGP's website. The riders were doing practice starts. The amount of just smoking burnouts on practice starts from yesterday were amazing. Part of that is down to they run that extra hard rear carcass. But the Yamaha, there's a video of Quattararo's that you have to go find. I mean, stunt riders would blush. This was the most phenomenal smoking burnout I've ever seen in MotoGP.
Yeah, it's having a hard time. It seems like even their ride height or their launch system just isn't as advanced as anybody else's, because, I mean, Marquez struggled with one of his practice starts, but freaking Peco, both the Aprilias got off the line like a scalded mule. They just launched.
The KTM's launched super well.
They always have. Yeah.
Mark had out a big spin as well, not nearly like Quattararo's, but the Aprilia launch is super good. The KTM does too. There is rumors, but I don't think they've proven anything yet. There is something internal inside the KTM, and probably a version of it in the Aprilia now, that is very much kind of skirting around the rules of the way the clutch operates, so you're not allowed to have an automatic clutch. Basically, you, the rider, have to feed out the clutch and be in control of the clutch. But similar to how the ride height devices work, if you ever watch those, when the rider is coming out of a corner, they don't have to hit the button to time the drop of the bike. They basically load it, and the bike has, like, it understands as it's dropping down, it kind of goes past sort of a gate, which then allows the rear end to sink. So it's nothing like electronically controlled. The rider's technically initiating it, but there's all these other components inside that sort of prevent it from dropping too soon or dropping too fast. I think that KTM and Aprilia have something similar like that with the way the clutch mechanism works on the start. I think there's something that says, hey, we've tuned it just right. when the revs are right here, the power's here, the torque's here, we want the clutch to feed out this way. And I think there's something going on where they're able to, through some other control, get it to feed out just how they want. Because their starts are bang on perfect every time.
So cool. Yeah. Super, super cool. Honda's looking pretty solid.
They look pretty good. They look better at Sepang than they do here. But again, this track has that hard rear carcass. And it's just a different track for a lot of these guys. They really struggle here with that bike, with that tire. So I don't think this is necessarily. I mean, it's Ducati and Aprilia kind of neck and neck. It feels like, at least at this track. And then there's a gap, and then there's Honda and KTM. KTM's a bit behind Honda, I feel like, and then Yamaha's way at the back.
Right.
I think in reality, when we get to most tracks, Honda's going to be much closer to Aprilia. Not much closer, but closer. It'll feel like they could get a top 5, is what it'll feel like.
Yeah.
So,
and then if you were questioning Peco, again, from what we saw this first one, Peco's back. Like, he looked comfortable. He looked like Peco of old, and it was fantastic to see.
Yeah, he would come into the corners with a ton of pressure on the front end, and he'd still steer in, and his apex. It looks like the impressive version we used to see back in like 24. So, and his kit looks fantastic. I think Ducati nailed it this year.
Yeah, the red and white. Yeah, he's got his new Alpine Stars helmet. No more Suomi. Looks good.
Speaking of Peco, I thought it would be announced before today, but it hasn't been announced officially yet. But his Aprilia deal, hopefully by now people have heard, but it sounds like all but a done deal that Peco is moving to Aprilia for next season. But it sounds like there's a little bit more detail about the deal that we have now. So if you like the idea of Peco in Aprilia, that's good, because you might be getting it for 4 years.
Oh, a 4-year deal.
So It sounds like it's a 2+2 deal where it's basically we're agreeing to be partnered up for 4 years, but at 2 years, if something is totally sideways, we have kind of an out, or maybe it's a performance clause, something like that. But he's probably going to be making like $3 or $4 million a year for the next, 2 to 4 years, plus bonuses, of course. So I don't know. I've never heard what he was making at Ducati, but my guess is that
probably wasn't a big number. Yeah, he's on the best bike. They don't have to pay a lot of money.
Yeah. So my guess is that's pretty good money for him. But I think for fans, that's all we ever wanted was Peco on that. Aprilia. It's a good.
Well, that's what I certainly wanted. That's what I was hoping for, and I still think Peco and Bez. And I want to sing the praises of Bez. He is not an alien, according to a lot of people. That he's not especially a super talented guy, but what he's doing, how Aprilia developed that bike with basically only him. They only had one real rider last year. I think is will over skill of Bez is absolutely inspiring. I'm so excited to see how well he finished on top of the stack from first practice. He was the fastest bike by a decent bit. He was in the 29s, which is
he's looked great all testing. He looked great at the end of last season. I would still think he's coming into this round, the GP this weekend, as the odds-on favorite. I would think. Yeah. Now you can never count out Mark. Mark's going to be there somehow. He always is.
I think Peco's going to be strong too. Looking at how he was doing.
But yeah, I think Bez is in a good spot. One thing that's interesting, so there's this trajectory of Aprilia with their engineering and designing and Aero and all these things. And then there's Ducati, which is still a fantastic bike, arguably the best on the grid still. They've all basically, even Mark, reverted from the 25 Aero to the 24 Aero. So it just blows my mind that it seems like Aprilia they might have a new wing design by the end of the session from what they started at the beginning. They're moving so quickly. And Ducati's they've had 2 years of development and apparently have not made anything better than what they had. Or not significantly better anyway, to force everyone to switch. Even Mark, when he was asked about it, he said he's starting this season on the 24 package. He said he did kind of hint that the 25 maybe has a slightly higher envelope of performance for him, but with his shoulder still recovering, he doesn't have the strength to deal with it, because I guess it's a much more physical bike when it has that Aero. But even then, it's how have you not improved it, Ducati? like you're Ducati. So I don't know. It kind of looks right now like Aprilia is kind of taking over Ducati's spot as the leader and the innovator with all this stuff. So it's fun to see.
Yeah, Martine. Why did you sign with Yamaha? Well,
To make room for Peco.
to make room for Peco, right? And I've always liked Peco. I've always liked his gentlemanly style, right?
Yep.
Like he's a,
Let's touch on one. Anyway, two more things we'll touch on. So the first, if you're local here, so we live in Salt Lake, and that's where we do this podcast from. With the Utah Superbike Club, the organization here, we are doing a
formerly the USBA.
Yep.
If you're not aware of the name change.
Yep. We are hosting a MotoGP watch party. So if you go to the Facebook page for Utah Superbike, you'll find all the details there. But basically, we are having a MotoGP watch party on Sunday for the Buriram race. It is at Two Row Brewing off of 72nd South, I think.
72nd. Kitty corner from where Hooters used to be, which was a landmark in Salt Lake because it was so scandalous that we would have a Hooters. Hooters is gone, by the way. It couldn't survive in Utah.
But anyway, Dave and I will both be there. So if you can make it down, we'd love to see you.
Right.
The other thing I think is worth mentioning, I think this is probably a much deeper topic, but we'll kind of touch on it here, is Phillip Island.
If you haven't heard, this is heartbreaking, unbelievably tragic. This is the first indication of how things are potentially changing with the new management company taking over MotoGP.
So, Phillip Island, classic MotoGP track. It's one of
everybody's favorite track for motorcycle racing.
I don't think there's anybody where Phillip Island doesn't hit their top 3 tracks at least. And a lot of times it's the favorite because it's such a unique experience, that place. Excellent track in a random, weird edge of the earth type location.
Stunning with the wind coming off the ocean and the penguins running around. It's like so magical.
But it is hard to draw a non-motorcycle addict audience to that location. It's way out there. It isn't convenient or buy anything really. So Liberty Media, which, they're the ones who they own Formula One. They helped grow Formula One significantly over about a 5-year period. And it already was a big deal. They are switching that one to you would probably call it a street circuit inside Adelaide, which is a bigger city in southern Australia.
A street course, like freaking Monaco. Right?
Kind
around
of, yeah.
Buildings
Technically, it would be that way. It's sort of unique in that it is the path that they're using is actually built inside of a park in the middle of the city. So it's a bit like if you set up a race course inside Central Park in New York. It's kind of more that feel. So it's in a big city, but it's also kind of in this little park-ish area.
It's going to be small. It's going to be slow.
Yeah.
It's going to be like Balaton.
Yeah. It's going to feel very Balaton Park, I think, which is not what these bikes are built for. They're meant for these flowing, fast, wide open, clinging onto the edge of grip type tracks, not these little sketchy stop and go, first, second gear stuff. But we'll see if it's. This is kind of the cost of what Liberty is trying to do, right? They're trying to grow this sport to a wider, bigger, less fanatic audience. And in order to do that, you have to bring the show to them,
Mm-hmm.
And so I would have been much more okay with them bringing the show to the people if it meant scratching off a track that wasn't Phillip Island.
Right. Of all the tracks because
I think with most MotoGP fans, that's the biggest sore spot. It's not that we have, because nobody really threw a fit when we went to Balaton Park. It feels like a waste, but whatever. It's that you're crossing off Phillip Island. That's the part that hurt. So, had they dropped one of the other tracks that's maybe a little less beloved.
Well, there's all these tracks that are like in the middle of God's nothing, right? Like what's the one that's on the freaking island that you can only get to by boat, which is 4 hours away from the nearest airport, and they kick all the surf bums out of town so there's enough hotel rooms for the teams. Everyone else sleeps on the beach. Like come on, like you're going to scratch Phillip Island and keep that one if the argument is audience size.
Yeah, and some of these, it's like like Qatar, if you remember, Qatar's been on the calendar for quite a while now. I can't remember the first
20
year
years
of
or
it.
so.
Yeah,
right?
probably. It used to be, there was like the city, and then you drive and drive and drive and drive, and then you get to the Qatar racetrack, the LaSalle racetrack. Now that city has just grown and grown, and it's like butted up against the track now, which is good until the people of like
The people
LaSalle,
who bought a
like,
house next to the racetrack are like,
are
why is the
tired of,
racetrack so loud?
yep, they're tired of hearing about, race bikes. So I don't know. We'll see what comes of that. They've got new problems to deal with. But yeah, Phillip Island, it's a shame that they crossed it off. There is some politics there too, where the folks that run Phillip Island really were not updating and making the facility, like the track is the track, but they weren't doing much to make the facility kind of meet what expectation is now. I mean, if you go to some of these tracks and see some of the photos of the pit area and the paddock area for the fans and stuff, or even
Phillip
Coda in
Island looks
America,
antiquated. Yeah.
yeah, Phillip Island looks like a county fair. It looks nothing like Coda. It looks nothing like some of these other big facilities.
The other mistake I think they've made is MotoGP runs Phillip Island in their spring, our fall. And so it's butted up next to F1. What they should be doing is ditching the World Superbike event at Phillip Island, which was last week, their fall, our spring.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't conflict, with F1 and how much they're, they should just switch the calendar around.
Yeah. Well, then what I don't get is they were trying to put the motorcycle events on the other ends of the schedule. Why? Like, don't you want me to stick around for 2 weeks instead of one? Like, I'm not making 2 trips to Phillip Island a year.
Right.
But
right. Why not put them? Yeah. Probably because they don't want you to see the same lap times.
Maybe that's part of it. That's probably a bit of it. But I don't think it's MotoGP that doesn't want it. I think it was always Phillip Island that didn't want it. But if you did World Superbike one weekend and MotoGP the next.
What an event. I'd go to Australia and hang out for 3 weeks.
To knock off a World Superbike and a GP event on one trip, yeah. I'll figure out. I'll find something to do for a week in Australia.
In Australia, yeah, I could go hang out with the penguins.
So yeah, I don't know. It feels like a missed opportunity, but obviously now it's a hugely missed opportunity. So I think that's most of the big stuff we wanted to cover. We weren't trying to make a full blown episode today. I think this was more for fun, and we're just excited. So
right, we're excited, and we hope to maybe see you hang out with us at 2 Row Brewing. Mm-hmm. Right, kitty corner from where Hooters used to be. The worst stoplight in all of Salt Lake City. There's like the stoplight that goes on for days. But yeah, it's I think it's in the old Toys R Us building, or the old Toys R Us storefront in that little strip mall. Good beer. It's a great facility. I've hung out there several times. It'll be great fun. So come hang out with us. I might bring some stickers and stuff. Maybe you can get an official CanyonChaser sticker.
There you go. I like it. All right, guys.
We'll see you next week.
See you Sunday. Enjoy the race.
All right. Cheers, guys.